So, okay, can we start here then? Because I'm stressed my daggone self, and I've been stressed in the sense of, like I've said, since we posted the fact that the name of this series that we're doing for Stress Awareness Month is "How May I Help You?" It seems like I have been bombarded with people dumping their stuff on me about how I can help them, but
Careful
they
what
don't
you
want to
ask
come.
for.
So, in terms of that, did my energy set it up so that I've opened this door and now the floodgates have kind of come in? And I'm like, hold up.
Yep, that's exactly what you did. So congratulations.
What
No,
do I do with that? I didn't know I signed up for that.
this is the thing, right? When you are invested in helping people, you will inevitably attract people who need help, right? And so like part of our work as helpful people is to manage our energy around the support that we lend others. So we can't be closed off to helping others because that's part of our calling, that's part of our work, that's part of our gifts, right? But we also have to manage it in such a way where we are not constantly attracting all the people in the world who need help, right? And that they're not dumping, because that's the word I heard you say, and that matters, right? It's one thing to attract people who need help. It's another thing to attract people who say they want help, but what they really want is a place to dump their stuff, right? And then what you gonna do with it?
First of all, I can't stand when you read me like that. But I love it, but I can't stand it.
we
But go ahead. Uh-huh.
we
Mm-hmm.
maybe should have named the show um Tell Me How I Can Be Helpful, or Tell Me How I Can Help You Help Yourself. Or you know, something that really puts the onus on someone else, right? Because we can only help people if they are willing to go all the way with the help we're offering. We're gonna talk more about that today, right?
Yes, for sure. Christy just said that was my 2024 lesson. Nini voice. The door is closed. Oh,
You don't have to
oh.
close the door either, though, Christy. Like, one of the things that I always warn people about is when we learn something that's a powerful lesson, we swing from one end of the pendulum span to the other, right? And we're constantly like going from extremes. Either we're like too giving, too welcoming, too open, or we like, oh, okay, that didn't work. Well, then I'm completely shutting it down, closing everything down, closing off. So I always want to warn people about that. Like, I don't know your exact details, but just there's always peace in the balance, right? The name of the game is harmony. So I always try to like tell people it's just about having that boundary. Yes, I love that, Christy. Having that screen door, right? So you can actually like you can open it when you want to. You can see what's on the other side. You're safe, not exposed, but you're also open and welcoming, right? That matters. That balance matters.
I think the interesting thing is too is like what I feel is it's not that necessarily that you want my help, it's that you want me to do your work for you.
Mm-hmm. I want to change. I want my life to change, but I don't want to have to change. Right? That's
Right.
always that's the common thread always. I want my situation to change. No, I don't want to have to change my behavior though. Right? Or
Mm.
I want my circumstances to change. No, oh, but you want me to change something? No. I can't change nothing. I just want you to change everything.
Yeah.
That's a dangerous place to be. Yeah.
Hi, Aunt Latanya. Welcome.
Hey,
So,
Latanya.
okay. In terms of my energy and what I am projecting, so I will own the fact, I will own that I can have a little self-sabotaging behavior at times. I'm airing out my stuff here right now a little bit. Maybe
We
if
all
I
do
do
that
it,
though. I'm
yes,
not gonna leave you out there. We all do that. We all do that to a certain extent.
self-sabotaging, and I recognize where it is getting in the way of me in opportunities. Make sense? You know what I mean? Like I've had opportunities where maybe I've read the room wrong and now I've reacted from how I've read the room and now that door might close. So is there something wrong with my lens?
No, I mean, here's the thing. I don't want to say there's anything wrong, right? That's not my language. And I will always caution you against saying there's something wrong with you or your lens or the way you see things. The question is it helping you, right? So what's not helpful is when we walk into a space emotionally, physically, and we are closed off. And I think that we've been hurt. We have many reasons in the world right now to be fearful. We are constantly on guard, and that can really impact the way that we show up in a room. So I'm really vigilant about this right now in my life, right? I'm really careful in my life right now that when I show up in a place emotionally, spiritually, physically, that I'm showing up in my faith, that I'm showing up in my fullness, that I'm showing up in a way that's in alignment with what I know to be true, which is that I'm safe, right? That my spirit is safe, right? So I'm always trying, keyword here, because I don't always get it right, but I'm always trying to walk into a place in a way that allows for connection, right? So that other people see that I'm connected to them and feel connected to me, and that we can move in community, right? I think what sometimes gets us in trouble is we close ourselves off, right? We walk into a place, we're defensive. We walk into a place, we got a face.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And we think other people, and then we walk out the place and we're like, well, nobody was nice, or them people don't, or what, nobody helped me, or I always have to do things by myself, or I knew it wasn't worth coming out, or you know what I mean? And we don't take into consideration the way that our energy contributed to the experience that we had, right? People are so stressed out these days because they're like, well, I have to do everything alone. I don't have any support. And I tell people all the time, if you find yourself constantly having to do everything alone and you don't feel you have any support, you got to check in with the relationships in your circle and ask what it is about you that has closed yourself off to them. Because
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes it's our energy that shuts people down or closes us off from other people, and then they don't want to bother with us. They don't want to try to help. Nobody wants to fight you to help you.
I hear you, but sometimes I do feel like people also just don't show up the way I would like them to show up. So
Because
there's
that's not their responsibility.
oh okay, well okay. In what way? Like they don't have to show up for me. People don't have to show up for me.
I mean, that the way you said it, right? Let me say it back to you the way you said it. People don't show up for me the way I want them to, right? So, what is in your request that they're missing? Because of their own accord, they don't have to be who you want them to be, right? They don't have to necessarily show up how you want them to show up.
You're
So,
not
if
about to
you
put me
have,
on this. You're not about
right?
to read me in front of all these people. Woo! Okay,
So,
what happened now?
I mean, listen, I'm the queen of this too, right? I have a very specific way that I want to be helped. I don't just want support, right? I want a certain type of support. I want it to look a certain way. I want it to smell a certain way. I want it to sound a certain way. I want things done a certain way so that I could walk away feeling like, wow, that was as good as I would have done it or better, right? So I get that. But if you are of the picky type of people like us, right? You have to be very clear, very calm, and very patient with your requests. Sometimes it means not being as picky, right? The beggars can't be choosers situation is a real situation. Sometimes it means making very clear requests so that the people that are supporting you know exactly how something should be done or how you might want something done so that they can meet that expectation, right? Thank you to the chat. So that's important too. And sometimes it's just about being grateful. Sometimes it ain't gonna be done the way you wanted it done. And sometimes people aren't gonna be who you want them to be. And the question is, can you be grateful anyway? Can you be thankful anyway for the energy? Can you be grateful anyway for the support? Can you look the other way on, the way that laundry got folded? or the way, such and such, did such and such, right? I don't know what the
Yes.
specifics are, but
Can I say
sometimes it
this
just
then?
requires that.
Can I ask this then? So then, in the gap of they're not showing up the way I would want them to show up, that gap of what that is, am I in charge of showing up for myself in that way? Is that what it is?
Sometimes, sometimes, right? I don't want to say yes 100% because sometimes what we do is we're like, oh, well, if they're not going to show up the way I want them to show up, then I'm just going to have to do everything by myself. And then you end up in that exhaustion and that fatigue again, right? Where
Mm-hmm.
you're just alone and doing everything alone and stressed and trying to figure out how did I get here, right? And it is because sometimes people don't want to deal with you. If you are the type, I was just having this conversation with someone. If you are the type of person that no one can do something the way you do it, right? You're the expert at all things, you're the master of all things, and no one can do things as good as you do them, and you're always going to criticize or you're never going to be satisfied. People know that. Even if you don't say it, your energy says it, right? And people just won't show up or they won't do it because they don't want to have to battle that. So you have to take a step back. It may be helpful to take a step back and just be like, maybe I could just be specific in my request. And as they just put in the chat, have a little grace, regardless of how it's done, right? Maybe I
Fair,
can plan for ways that I can need less. But in the meantime, while I am needing this level of support, maybe I can just be grateful for however it comes along.
fair.
Mm.
So then, if let's say a friend, a boyfriend, whoever, is not showing up for me the way I think they should be showing up for me, does that mean this person, like the lens that I have, does that mean this person loves me any less? They aren't worth my time, my effort. They are not. They should not be in my circle because we aren't aligned in the way that I think the relationship should be going.
That is a lot of absolutes you just
I'm
asked right
sorry.
there.
Well,
I don't I don't know that person and I feel like I'm gonna doom them right now with whatever
oh,
comes out my mouth next. But this is what I will say. I think it's a case by case basis. And I think what you have to look at is what you mentioned. Where's your alignment, right? How clear have your requests been? Where was your energy when you attracted the situation, the person? Have you been clear with your requests? What kind of grace have you already extended? What kind of gratitude are you practicing? What are you getting back? Where are the lessons in what you're experiencing? Because if everything works out exactly as we want it, we will not learn, right? We learn from the moments where things are off, right? We learn from the things that don't go the way we expected, right? So where are the lessons for you? And then you can make a decision. I'm not saying live an unsatisfied life. Anybody who knows me knows that is not my story, right? I'm not saying that you should always settle for less. I'm not saying that you shouldn't have things your way. I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying that sometimes we have to challenge the entitlement, the instant need for gratification, the things that push us to snap about the support rather than evaluating like, okay, well, wait a minute, how did I get in this situation? How clear have I been in this situation? What am I trying to get out of this situation? What can I learn from this situation? And then once you've done that work, then you can figure out, okay, do I need a different situation, right?
yeah. And I think, okay, so just shifting gears a little bit, I feel like sometimes walking into a room, not for me specifically, but I've heard this, walking in a room sometimes and you feel like the room is not receptive of you, or feeling that pressure, or feeling like almost, not that people have to walk on eggshells around you, but that you might have to walk on eggshells around other people.
Right.
So is that, I guess I'm trying to understand, is that the lens I'm looking through, or is that the, am I reading the room?
It could be both. Sometimes people aren't receptive to us, and that's okay. There are situations where you have to win people over. You know, we,
Do we?
I,
I don't know.
if you, sometimes, sometimes, there are people who I love. Like, I love my mother, but I win her over every day with a different choice. She will come in here and read me for filth if she catches me in my bathrobe at 1 o'clock, right? That's not a misread, right? That's my mama, and she keeps me honest, you know? And so, yes, I have to look at that situation and be like, okay, how can I shift, right? So, not every moment that somebody is not buying into us is a moment where we are misreading the situation. Like sometimes they really aren't buying into us, and sometimes there's a lesson in that for us about being humble, about listening, about being observant, about reflecting, about figuring out what we can shift, right? I absolutely believe in being confident, but I don't believe in being arrogant. So I don't walk into a room expecting that everybody is going to buy in immediately. I also don't walk into a room thinking people hate me. I walk into a room thinking there's a 50-50 chance, right, that I'm winning already. And that's what I focus on, that 50-50 chance that I'm winning already. And then we move from there. And yes, there might be, some people that don't like me and they have good reasons. And I got to pay attention to that. And there might be some people that aren't buying in and they'll never buy in. And that's okay too, right? I don't need consensus. So I think you just have to, I don't think it's about reading the room. I think it's about whatever read you have, focusing on what strengthens you, focusing on what moves you with faith, with grace, right? I think that's what it is. So if you read the room and your immediate response is, wow, these people really have not bought into who I am. But that gives you that motivation of like, okay, well, I'm going to walk in my fullness and in my faith and show everybody where my heart is, then that's beautiful. Read that room however you want to, right? If you walk into the room and you're like, wow, these people have really bought into me and I feel celebrated and safe, and that allows you to walk in your faith and your fullness, then that's perfect. So I think how you read the room is irrelevant. I think it's what you do with the read that moves you forward or holds you back.
Okay. So let's talk about in terms of a romantic department thing. So when I walk into a room and I want a man's attention, because there's clearly some type of repellent I got going on. I don't know. I'm just
Not
saying.
a repellent.
There's something repelling, or maybe it's repelling the right thing. Who's to say? But well, so how is softening my energy or shifting my energy of how I walk into a room, but I still want to be in alignment with my authentic self.
Right.
So you know what I mean? So walking
Yeah.
into okay, so if I okay, yeah, so I want to walk into a room, I want to be confident. I want to be all of these things and show up as the fullness of who I am. But what if that is intimidating to the person that I'm speaking to?
Okay.
Ooh,
That's
what that
not
mean?
your fit. That's not your fit. You don't have to fit with everybody. You only need one, right? So, some of it is just weeding people out. And some processes take longer than others. Be grateful for the things and the people that don't fit. Like sometimes, I hear people all the time, and now it's some sort of like social media meme, talk about how rejection is God's protection, right? In many ways, like one of the things that keeps us learning and keeps us growing is the contrast, right? Is the not right, the not the right fit, right? Once we experience some of those things, then we know, like, oh, wait, this wasn't it. This is not how I want to feel, or this is not how that's supposed to land, or this is not, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
so if you walk into a room and you are showing up authentically and humbly, right? Authentically and humbly, and then at the end of that you're left feeling like, this didn't work. Follow that. That's how you know, right? And think about why it didn't work, and think about who you attracted to the other side of that table, and think about what it was that didn't fit right, and see how that information helps you make a different choice, you know? And because I said humbly, I want to go back to humbly. Humility is not about being quiet, being demure, disappearing. That's not what it's about. It's about being appropriately aware of where you shine and where you struggle, right? It's about being able to speak and listen. So if you're fully showing up, that means that you're present for the people that you're with and you're present yourself, right? So you can take in any feedback that other people have and you can process it and you can evaluate it and you can analyze it. And some of it may hold weight and some of it may not. And you can shift through all of that and then you can move forward, right? So every situation is not supposed to be your forever situation. Not all your dates are going to be your date, your first date with your forever man, right? But
Mm.
those experiences are really, really important because when you do have that first date with your forever man, it will be built on all of those other dates. Everything that you
And what?
learned,
Okay.
everything you learned in those dates, everything that you were able to move through, right? To figure out what your partner is supposed to look like, smell like, feel like, sound like, right? Like you're learning all of that as you move through these other experiences. So, just because they're not the one doesn't mean that's not an important milestone or that's not an important stepping stone as you move toward the one, right? Or the relationship that you really, really want to have. So I
So
don't think
you've
you're
known me.
repelling.
uh, I was gonna say you've known me for a while. I mean, we've known each
Uh-huh.
other for a few years. Do you think I have a brick wall up?
I think that in the years that I have known you,
Careful,
you have
Dr.
softened.
G.
Right, right. I think all of a sudden my Instagram live gets cut off, right? Um, I think in the years that I have known you, you have softened remarkably,
Okay.
remarkably. And I
Hey,
think that,
sorry.
no, you good. I think a retaining wall, I just saw in the comments. I think that, I don't think that us being closed off is bad or good. I think it just may have repercussions we're not aware of, right? I think some of us are closed off for very real, important, valid reasons. I just don't think that we always acknowledge how that wall translates to the things we complain about, right?
Mm,
So you
found.
have the right, yeah, you have the right to have that wall if you believe that that's what's necessary to keep you safe. Go crazy, knock yourself out. But when you complain about how, nobody's there for you or nobody comes through or you can't seem to make a connection or whatever those things are, consider how the wall is a part of that,
Mm,
right? So that's the only thing that we talked about this last week. The name of the game is always asking yourself, how do I contribute to my stress, right? I'm looking at the comments. You know, it's very difficult to help people take responsibility and feel empowered without blaming them or shaming them for the choices that they make, right? And I always want to be careful with that because I think it's very easy for us to feel like, well, if I'm in control and I have the power, then this must be my fault, right? And that is not what I'm trying to push. It's not about it being your fault, it's not about it being your problem. But it is about you having the power to maybe shift your energy and make some different choices so that the things that are stressing you out don't have the same power in your life that they used to.
I feel you. How do I take ownership? Because I see a question here. Renisa said, "How do I contribute to my stress?" Wow. Well, that's not a question in the sense of how do I know what I've contributed to, and then how do I know what the outside stressors are? So now I can take ownership for the things I've contributed to, but how do I realize, okay, this was me adding this to my life. This is y'all. You know?
Yeah. I think at all times I'm doing my work, right? I don't think it's a clean line, right? I know everybody wants it to be clean so that we can be like, oh, well, this is where I start and this is where, I stop, right? I don't think that's where it is. I think at all times I'm doing my work and I think at all times we have to be doing our work. So I may figure out, oh, okay, this is me, right? This is how I'm contributing. And so I may shift something about myself. And then I realized, okay, well, those other people are really, or that other thing is really now stressing me out, even though I made this shift. So, okay, I may have to cut off that thing or that other person, but I still have to be working on why did that other person or that other thing still trigger me, right? So
Yeah.
I don't just make decisions to cut people out or cut people off and then be like, well, I guess my work is done, right? No, that's not how that works. I am always and forever doing my work. So it's not a clean line. I think one of the ways I tell people all the time in terms of stress, one of the ways if there's a situation or a person that is um, playing a larger role in your stress response than is healthy, is how you breathe in that situation or in the presence of that person, right? Like, I know people who their children walk in the room and they just stop breathing altogether.
Mm.
That's a problem, right? Now, parenting is a beautiful and amazing gift, but it can take you out. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
you need to check how you're interacting in that relationship, that the minute that person walks in, your access to oxygen is all of a sudden modified, right? The same thing with romantic relationships. Like, I know people who are just completely and totally different people when their spouse or their partner is around, and they can't breathe and they're all stressed out and they're fidgety and there's all that stuff, right? And you have to ask yourself, like, okay, wait a minute. Why does my breathing change when this person walks in the room? Right? So sometimes your body will tell you
Mm.
when the stress response that you're having is a little more than normal, right? A little more than healthy. There are things that stress us out, and it's absolutely normal and it's absolutely appropriate and it's okay. Right? I just told you, if my mother knocks on my door and I got my bathrobe on, I promise you that I get stressed because I know she's coming for me, right? But that's not an unhealthy stress response. That's just like oh yeah, why am I still in my room at 2 o'clock in the
Yeah.
afternoon, right? So there are some stress responses that keep us vigilant, that keep us in line, that keep us in check. I not only respond to my community, I rely on them to keep me in line, to keep me in check around certain things. So just because a person or a place or a situation triggers a stress for you doesn't mean they have to be
Mm.
eliminated, right? Doesn't mean
Mm.
that's completely unhealthy or that situation is too much, right?
Yeah.
There are things that stress. Sometimes on Monday mornings when I know I have 45 papers to grade, I have a little stress, but I'm not trying to quit my job. I love my job.
Yeah.
I just, need to manage my time. So not all stress is negative and toxic, and not all stressors need to be eliminated. But you know when it's toxic because you just can't breathe.
Mm. Somebody put in the chat, Sebastian put, I heard recently the us being busy. So being busy could be a trauma response. So
Absolutely.
trying to fill my plate or trying to fill the things that I'm doing as a trauma response. What is that? What is explain that?
Mhm. Because a lot of people, when they experience really traumatic situations, or when traumatic situations could be anything that shatters your sense of safety, right? So I'm not talking about like really like diagnosed psychological trauma, right? I'm talking about any situation that causes you to feel unsafe. When we talk about those kinds of things, we talk about memories, we talk about situations, we talk about experiences that trigger that kind of response for you. They're hard to deal with. They're hard to walk through. They're hard to think through. They're hard to re-experience. And so sometimes what we'll do is we'll just busy ourselves up so we don't have to sit in it. So we don't have to think about it, so that we don't have to replay it, so we don't have to process it. So we just on the move. I know a lot of people like this who are constantly on the move, on the move, on the move, doing, acting, talking, right? All the time in a verb, so that they don't have to be present and still with whatever feelings they're having or thoughts they're having, or any kind of situation that would force them into the places they're running away from, right? I tell people all the time, like, these are the flight risks. You know what I mean? I call them the flight risks, right? Like, I know that if I start talking to them about some real heavy stuff, they gonna run because that's how they cope, right? They don't know how. They don't have the tools and the skills to just sit in it. And I get it. Sitting in it is
I'm
hard.
uncomfortable even hearing you talk about sitting in it. I've done it before. I can sit through the processing. Okay, this is what happened. I need to recalibrate. All
Hmm.
those things. It is uncomfortable. Is that the healthier way to process, to sit with it? Or is it I mean, is it unhealthy to like fill my plate up with like 50 jobs?
I mean, we live in a gig economy, right? We're in a grind culture. So, me saying that it's unhealthy to fill our life up with 50 jobs is a little, um, it can be a little insensitive to our context, right? Our social context now creates that for us. So I don't know if it's always unhealthy to have multiple things that we're doing. I think the question is, can you sit still if you need to? Right? Can you sit in it if you need to? Some people can't. Some people, some of us are busy because we're moving in our purpose and we're running towards something. And some of us are busy because we're moving in our fear and we're running away from something, right? You kind
You
of just
better
have
shut
to
up
ask
tonight,
yourself,
Dr. D. You better cut it out right
right?
now.
I'm
Okay.
sure I'm not like the genius that thought that up. I'm
No,
sure
but I'm
that's like
saying,
some
okay,
common,
right. You said some of us are busy because we're running toward purpose, and some of us are busy
because we're
because
running from fear, right? We're
running.
running because of fear. Yeah. And that's real. So the question is not, are you wrong for having 5 jobs? The question is, why you got 5 jobs? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
Is it a part of my
uh,
purpose or is it a part of my fear?
right, right. Why are you doing it? And when you figure out why you're doing it, sit in that and ask yourself, why am I really doing it? And then when you answer that, sit again and ask yourself, okay, but if I'm telling myself the truth, why am I really doing it? Right? Because we really have a tendency to lie. I say this all the time. We have a tendency to lie to ourselves. And we get very, very good at it. And the smarter we are, and the more evolved we are, and the more spiritual we are, and the more we do our work, all we do is learn more language, better language for lying to ourselves about things, right? And so then we end up rationalizing and building all of these like really amazing, uplifting narratives about how we're keeping ourselves busy because the world is in such shambles and we have to be present for all the people who need us. And like it gets real fancy, you know what I mean? And really under all of that is the trauma we're suppressing, the truths we're not telling, the fears we're not facing, the all the work, all the really hard work. So I will ask myself questions, and I just assume, right? Like, I just immediately imagine that my first answers to myself are not true. You know what I mean?
So
Like,
like,
I'll be like, why?
okay, the first question, yes, why do I have 50 things I'm working on?
Right,
Because I enjoy the 50 things that I'm working on.
right,
I also need to make some money because production is not it's not a lot of production going on. So I have multiple things that I'm working on right now. There's That's an underlining thing. If I go a little bit deeper, I mean I have the time.
keep going,
um I'm still trying to figure out where to put all of my eggs in what basket.
keep going,
So I have so many different talents. Why would I not be working on all of these things?
keep going. What would
What else would
happen
I
if you what would happen if you weren't working out all these things at one time? What if you just chose one thing?
I mean that's cool too, I guess.
But not real cool because you ain't do it, right? So
Right. If I what would I cut? I don't even know what I would cut.
And a question, I'm not saying this is your question because I'm not in your minds, but for all the people who find themselves in similar situations, a question that comes up for people at that point is, what if I cut the wrong thing?
Mm.
Right? What if I put all my eggs in this basket and this wasn't the thing that's going to hit? Right? What if I make the wrong choice? Right? What if I'm not tuned in and tapped into what's right for me? What if my intuition is off? What if I'm not aligned? What if, right? And you get into these what ifs, and all under there is all this self-doubt. And so then the question, right? Then the real answer, I'm not saying this is your answer, I'm just saying it's a possibility. Then the
Mm-hmm.
real answer for why do I have 5 jobs becomes not because I have all of these talents and all of these visions that I'm trying to actualize simultaneously, right? Then the answer deep down that's gotten buried is I have all these jobs because I'm secretly scared that I might not move in the right direction.
Did y'all enjoy the live tonight? I really hope. Really. Somebody said, "How do we identify the moment to stop? When do I stop adding to my plate then?"
Stop now. That's it. Stop now. Stop right now and just check in with yourself. Matter of fact, you don't even have to stop. Just check in with yourself about how you felt when you heard me say stop now. So just check in. Just figure out, like, in that moment, why you hated me, right? Like, in that moment, why were you like, she don't know what she's talking about, right? Like, in that moment, all of those reactions that we have, because it happens to me too. When other people give me an easy answer and I have all these immediate, she don't know. She don't know me. She don't understand, right? Like all of those things that come into our minds, that resistance is there to defend us because we felt threatened. And that threat was because something that we're burying got triggered, right? So whatever that thing is, I don't know what it is, but whatever that thing is the thing you have to check in with. So if you're trying to figure out like when's a good time to stop, you really have to figure out why you're moving. And in order to figure out the why, you may want to figure out what got triggered when I told you to stop, or what gets triggered when you think about stopping, or what gets triggered when you consider stopping a particular thing, right? Like what would happen if you stopped grinding?
Okay, so what does real happiness and joy actually look like
I
then?
don't know.
Because I mean, I'm talking about because if you ask me, I feel like I have joy in so many different things that I do. But I think we talked about this last week too. Some of it can drain me, and if it's draining me, then it might not be in alignment with what I need to be doing. It's
Maybe.
the things that feel okay.
It's not, I don't think it's about whether or not it drains you, because some things that bring me joy do drain me, but they also replenish me at the same rate or at a faster rate than they're draining me. So I'm never drained for long,
Mm,
right? And then there are things that drain you but don't replenish you. I think that's the danger,
mm,
right? So I love to paint. Everybody who knows me knows like art is my thing. If I was left on an island all by myself and there was no other people and nothing in the world, the thing I would be is an artist, right? Like I would just like try to find ways to like move rocks and build things out of, and whatever and add colors, and that's my thing, right?
mm-hmm.
So I could really obsess because that's my personality over a painting. And I could be down there hours at a time painting, and I can really, really like feel exhausted at the end of it. But
Mm-hmm.
the next time that I'm ready to do it, I'm just as excited again, right? It is something that fills me more than it drains me. So I think you just have to look at what are the things that replenish you at the rate or faster than they drain you.
Okay, y'all drop y'all questions in the comment because Dr. Z is snatching all the edges tonight. We're about to play stress or success.
Okay.
Okay,
I hate this game.
no, stress or success. So
Okay.
y'all drop in the comments that this leads to stress or it leads to success. Okay.
Okay.
You're scrolling on IG and
The stress.
you're feeling like, huh? Not you.
Stress.
Scrolling on IG and you see everyone else has life figured out.
Nobody has life figured out.
Is this but the comparison thing? Like, do we see it's of course social media has like set it up for us to compare ourselves to 50 million other people online. That is clearly a point of stress for a lot of people right now.
I really think that social media is a phenomenal place to see how people will present their lives if given the opportunity. That's it. Like, it's not nothing on social media that I've ever found, and maybe I'm just not, following the right things or connected to the right people, but there's nothing on social media that I have ever found that is the complete and total picture of what a person's life is, including mine. Like, right, so you see me right here with this is the only part of my sofa that exists, or like this is the only that's the only candle I have, or this is no, like this is not a complete picture of who I am. So I think scrolling through social media is stressful if you believe that you are seeing the fullness of people's lives.
There's always another side.
There's millions of
Side.
other
Yeah.
sides.
Yes.
Yes, people have the right to post what they want to post. That's fine. But for you to believe that the only thing that those people are experiencing is what they posted is very limiting, right? Like my life, I cry, I laugh, I have moods, I'm positive, I'm condescending, I'm annoying, I'm obnoxious, I'm sweet,
All
I'm
the things.
all the
Yeah.
things. I'm all the things. I have good days, I have bad days. Me and my husband love each other. We, hold hands. We fight about everything all the time. It's great. It's phenomenal. Like it you do not see, you cannot see into every aspect of a person's life. You see what they show you, and that's fine. They have a right to show you the things that they feel comfortable showing you. The reminder is not to believe that you are seeing the fullness of a person's experience.
Yeah.
So this is how I will answer that. Success in scrolling is keeping the mindfulness that you are seeing a fragment of a person's experience. Stress in scrolling is falling into the illusion that somehow what you are seeing is the fullness of the experience of the people providing it.
Mm. Heard. Ah, moving to a new city with no safety net. Stress.
Stress. Stress. You know, it can be exciting, it can be amazing. I've done it, right? So it can be very, very you can be very eager, and that eagerness and that excitement can take you a long way. But I mean, in almost every study and in almost every stress associated survey, moving to a new place is one of the top stressors for people. So
Mm.
that is, if you are moving to a new place, especially without a safety net, and you are feeling stressed, you absolutely should seek out support, because it is a very common experience that is known to stress people out.
And what does that also tie into then? Like if I'm stressed in that situation, then what? That could lead to depression because now I have no support.
Yeah.
Um,
It leads to anxiety because people feel uncertain about what's next. It leads to depression because people feel, like you said, unsupported. It can lead to other really concrete challenges, right? So financial challenges because they don't have a nest egg and they may not have a job lined up, or could lead to housing challenges. Can create issues in romantic relationships because there are romantic relationships that can't survive the distance. And then if you're moving somewhere because of that person, a person lives there, there are romantic relationships that can't survive the closeness. Right? And
yeah.
so it can tear at that. Friendships are often compromised as a result of people moving away because somebody that you were physically close to, maybe someone you're also emotionally close to, and then what happens when there's a big distance. So it can create all kinds of additional stressors in a person's life. So absolutely, positively a stressful situation, no matter how you look at it, that most people will require support to be able to navigate in a healthy way.
Last one, and then we're going to talk about stress prevention because we've
Okay.
talked a lot about stress, but we need to
Okay.
talk. How do I even prevent this? So the last
Yes.
one, cutting off my friends to protect my peace, stress or success.
So if you're cutting, hmm, if you're if you're building boundaries that result in the end of friendships because those friendships threaten your peace, then that's success. But it still might be stressful. I don't think those two are mutually exclusive, right? If you are in a relationship of any kind, family, friends, romantic, work, and a boundary has to be built to protect your peace from the chaos of another person, and it's somebody that you love or like or mess with in some way, I think that it's success, but it is still going to be stressful, and you have to be willing, ready to own that and manage that stress in order for that boundary building to really be a success.
Did she read y'all? Is your edges still attached to your head? Um, okay, stress prevention, Dr. D, because we, like you said, we've gotten to the point in life where stress is literally a part of our everyday life. We've learned how to
Mhm.
function, all those things. How do we prevent even getting to this space and eliminating it?
I think that one of the you just ended with a really good segue, right, talking about building boundaries in toxic and chaotic relationships that may end those relationships, right? I think it's really important for us to get really good at identifying what is going to be stressful for us so that we can cut it off before it hits us, right? Because one of the things that I think we do is we play this game in our minds where we're the exception or this thing is the exception, right? We play a lot of exceptions. And then something turns out to be exactly what we knew it was, right? And then we're like, oh, but now how do I manage it? Well, okay, that's fine. We'll talk about how to manage it now, but maybe stop jumping in that deep end, right? So that you're not drowning and we're always kind of like looking for the lifesaver, right? So I say this all the time. Like people get in these friendships with, people and they're like, oh, I can't be around her. She's so messy. You knew she was messy.
No.
You know what I'm saying? You knew she was messy, right? And then, but now it's a problem. But you could have predicted that. You knew that from the beginning, right? Or they'll be like, oh, I can't be with him anymore because he really like stresses me out. Okay, let's name all the things that he does to stress you out, and now you tell me when they started. Oh, all of them were already there when y'all met? Okay, cool. So you did that to yourself, right? Because you got into this relationship with somebody who already exhibited traits that you understood were going to be problematic, but you thought, oh, it's going to be different with me, or I'm going to be the one to change him, or I'm going to, right? And so now you catch yourself in a situation where all of the problematic traits that were announced to you in the first few months of a relationship become your problem, and now you feel stressed out. Okay, how could you have prevented that stress, right? Believe what you're seeing,
Mm,
right? Take inventory of what you know.
mm,
So sometimes, we talked a little bit about lying to ourselves. Sometimes one of the things we really need to be doing is being honest with ourselves about what we're seeing in these relationships, in these people, in these situations, and why we're going into them anyway, right? Like you said, we'll take on the fifth job and then we'll be like, oh, this is too much. Well, you
But
knew
you
four
knew that.
jobs was
You
too
knew that.
much, right?
Yeah.
You knew four jobs. You were complaining about four
I,
jobs. So you take
I just added another job before this call. I can't.
yeah, okay, congratulations. So we all do this, right? This is not a you problem. This is not a me problem. That we all do this constantly. We ignore what we know about our stress. And I say this, I've said this before, I'll say this again, specifically in oppressed communities, right? Or communities of people who have traditionally been oppressed. Speaking as a woman of color, right? From modest beginnings, right? We have a tendency to believe that we can survive anything because we survived so much, right? And so there's this narrative that gets passed on to us that we're resourceful and we're resilient. And what it does is it kind of sets us up to inadequately judge the stress we're up against, right? Because we have this sort of superhero complex going on. And so rather than look at something for what it is, we look at it as something we can overcome because why not? We've overcome other things. But I think that it's important at some point to make choices about what we want to be fighting against, right? We don't have to take on every obstacle just because we might be able to survive it. Like, I
Mm,
think at this point, we really need to be conscious and mindful about choosing things that bring us joy and are healthy and are in alignment with our purpose. And we often know something in our gut will tell us, like, we'll know. And we'll shut it up and we'll keep it moving. But we knew on day one that this wasn't the job for us. We knew that,
mm-hmm,
right? Or we knew on the second date or on the third date that this wasn't going to be the partner for us, right?
mm,
Or we knew from middle school that this chick was a problem. You know what I mean? Like, we know these things, but we'll ignore it and we'll keep moving and we'll try to figure it out. And that is a situation that I think often lands us in stress that then we have to manage, where it could have been stress that we could have avoided.
is that all? I'm done. If no one has any questions, we are gonna sign off. If you have any questions, going to get your last little question out. So I'm gonna let Dr. D go because I'm trying to hold on to what is left of my edges. Um, I do want.
I just answered the questions you threw at me.
Yes, I know. Pop culture moment though that has just happened in the zeitgeist. I don't know if you're familiar with the Breakfast Club. Are you familiar with the Breakfast Club? You in New
I,
York.
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
So
It's a radio show.
yes, one of the young ladies is new to the show. Jess Hilarious just got uh officially a part of the show. And
Okay.
while she was out on maternity leave, another young lady, a news producer, senior news producer, stepped in to fill in her spot while she was on maternity leave. They got a lot of comments flooding that this girl is better than Jess. Hire this girl. Get rid of Jess. So a lot of comments came in. Jess came back
Mhm.
in from maternity leave, and of course, postpartum, she's sensitive. Long story short, the women had a little bit of a back and forth on air. So I say this in terms of
That
saying,
makes me
like,
sad.
yes, and one woman showed up, and I think she showed up in her authentic self, and she really did amazing at the work that she was doing on the radio show. And Jess felt some type of way, whatever the case may be, a lot of wires across. So when we were talking earlier about showing up as your authentic self and probably shining in that light, but then also now I see the girl almost now dimming her light now that Jess is back. So how do I operate in a space and be my full self? Not even about them, you know,
Hmm.
to show up, operate in a space as my full self, and recognizing that it triggers other people in what they're dealing with, and giving myself permission to now, like, no, but I'm going to stand 10 toes down in my light.
Yeah, I don't. I I think those are different questions. I understand why you ask them together, right? I understand why you ask them together because we think of them together. But I don't think my relationship with myself and my relationship with other people lean on one another, right? So one question is, how do I show up and be myself no matter what?
Right.
Right? And be my brightest self no matter what. And I think that's about making sure I'm in alignment with my purpose, making sure that I come to it with some level of humility, making sure that I feel confident about my ability, right? Making sure that I am fully present, not just in what's being asked of me, but in however I can be of service, right? So there's a piece of it that's just about no matter how it makes other people feel, you show up fully who you are. However, and not but, and I think that at all times we need to lead with kindness and compassion and grace, right? And that doesn't mean that I have to dim my light, and that doesn't mean that I have to stop my shine in any way. But I do think that there's an energy that we can put out that says, I'm here with you, not instead of you, not not any of that, but with you, right? I think one of the things that gets us in trouble is, as we were talking about, being in communities that are made up of people who are historically oppressed, women, right? We're constantly pitted against each other,
Mm-hmm.
and we create these situations where it's like we're in competition, and then all of a sudden we become enemies of one another. You know what I heard you say, what I heard you say is there are two great women who could possibly be of service on that show.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that it has been spun in any way other than that, right, is what they do to us.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't have to be that. We can show up and shine in multitudes, right? In multitudes of ways and in multitudes of people. We don't have to always be in this competition. If there's one person that did it better than the other person, like, there's always going to be something that you can provide that I can't provide. There's always going to be something that I've been through that you have not been through. There's always going to be some way that you're valuable and I'm valuable.
Yeah.
Right? This idea that we're always being pitted against each other, and there's always a competition, and there's always like, oh, but this person did so great and that person did better, and we don't have to do that. Like, I don't, it makes me sad that that there would ever be a conflict as a result of two women shining.
Yeah. I feel you. Yes, I agree, Dr. D. Okay, that concludes our live tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed it. Tune in next Wednesday. We're talking all things stress from every which way you can possibly imagine. So next Wednesday,
But
7
try to
p.m.
be more
Time.
delicate, because apparently you and your feelings
Girl,
right now.
girl. About to have me looking like Stevie. Okay?
I
Milk.
thought I handled that with some level of diplomacy, but you know.
I appreciate you. Y'all have a good night. I will talk to you, Dr. D.
All
Good
right.
night, everybody.
Bye,
See you next Wednesday.
everybody.